Dylan Raiola to Oregon. Does that mean Dante Moore's headed to the draft? Sounds like it. We got a lot to discuss about the Oregon Ducks.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Locked On Crossover with Locked On the Portal and Locked On Ducks. I am Brian Smith. That is Spencer McLaughlin. Appreciate you all stopping in to check out our shows each and every day right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We have a lot to get to, probably more with the Ducks than just about any program in the country. And that's saying a lot considering the transfer portal is so much. But they have as much transformation going on and a big decision as we do this before it happens. Today with Dante Moore, we'll get to him. We'll talk about the overall roster, the 26 expectations for the Ducks. Spencer, I'm sure you are as they say, rather busy man right now.
Yeah.
Where else would we start? I mean, Dylan Raiola coming, you assume Dante's going to, I would assume they've spoken. I can't imagine that Dylan Raiola is coming to Oregon unless he knows he's going to be the starter.
I can.
Oh, okay. Well,
I can. No, I absolutely can. You know, Raiola's numbers at Nebraska were pretty good. He's still an unfinished product. I think there's a real chance he looked at what Dante Moore did with his career and how much it helped him and thought to himself, well, maybe I should do that. And I don't think there's a guarantee that he's starting in 2026. Now, as you mentioned, we're recording this before Dante Moore has announced his decision, which does have to happen on Wednesday, January 14th. If Dante Moore declares for the draft, Oregon could try and poke around to bring in another quarterback who they think is going to have starting potential for this fall. Because the other thing you have to remember is Raiola is coming off of an injury. So if he's not totally ready to go by spring ball, well, that could set you back a pretty good ways if you have to go through spring football without QB1 actually playing with the team, especially if he hasn't before. But you combine that injury with the fact that Raiola does have plenty of area to improve. Frankly, in a lot of the ways that Dante Moore needs to improve, and I've said many times, and I'm not the only one who feels this way, Dante Moore would be incredibly wise to come back to Oregon because with where he is at developmentally, he has progressed exponentially from where he was as a true freshman at UCLA. Taking that next jump right now to the NFL, I think Indiana has shown us he's not ready to do that just yet. And you're going to go up against the same level of complex defenses that Indiana presents, which stifled him to the tune of 3 touchdowns and 5 turnovers and 2 losses, both by double digits in the games this season. They were easily his worst games, even worse than Texas Tech, quite frankly, which was also a struggle, but for a different reason. I think he was much better in that game than he was in either of the games against the Hoosiers. And if you want to try and figure all that stuff out, you have to eventually. But would you rather do it in the college ranks, or would you rather do it with the Jets, in all likelihood, against NFL athletes? It's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder. And I could see that. I'd be rooting for him, of course, but I could see that spiraling really, really quickly. So, yeah, I think that the plan, with Luke Moga and Austin Novosad hitting the portal after the guy that recruited them, Will Stein, going to Kentucky, I think bringing in Raiola as a future option for the Ducks makes plenty of sense. And I think for Raiola, it makes plenty of sense. You don't need to rush back from injury. You can sit and learn, try and get better, and then you'll be at a place that has been Rehab U for quarterbacks in the country. No one else has done this better. I mean, Oregon with quarterbacks is the Alabama offensive coordinator role under Saban. What, you had plenty of buzz and you went somewhere else and it didn't go according to plan? Why don't you come here? You'll get right, and then everything else will be sunshine and rainbows for you. You look at Bo Nix and now Dante Moore. Like, what was the word on those guys when they left their previous stop? 5-star busts. What's the word on them now? Not exactly anywhere near being the B word. So, yeah, I think that Raiola to Oregon does make some sense, and I think the worst thing you can say about Dylan Raiola is that he cosplays as Mahomes.
Don't get me started on that. That's a whole nother subject.
It's weird. It's cringy, but you know what? He's trying to be like the best quarterback probably of my lifetime. So there are worse things.
Oh yeah, it's a first world problem. I grasp that. All right, let's just wait for the Dante decision to happen before we really dive into it more on those two. But the other thing that's interesting is Moga is in the portal. Who else at quarterback left? There's more.
Novosad, Austin Novosad left.
So do you think they just, and I don't know where it's at, do you think worst case scenario, they got to go get a backup of some kind? Because like you said, Raiola is coming, its ankle, it was broke, right? You got to have guys play in practice in spring.
Yeah.
They need to get a backup, or they need to get two. What do you think there?
I don't think they do. I mean, plenty of teams probably have 4 quarterbacks on the roster at a time, which is what Oregon is actually slated to have, because Brock Thomas, who I believe is a former walk-on, he's not someone that you would bill as a future starter of the Ducks because he doesn't have, the physical traits to do that. Dan Lanning was adamant this year that he earned the backup quarterback role over Austin Novosad and Luke Moga. And by the way, he was in there for the Wisconsin game. Dante Moore this year got banged up. He took a crowbar sidearm to the nose, got bloodied, and had to go out of the game in these horrible raining conditions at Autzen Stadium. And Brock Thomas stepped in, and the game was still within doubt. It wasn't over. And Brock Thomas stayed in there, completed a couple passes, ran the offense, and won the game. And when you watch the stints that he came in at as the backup quarterback when Oregon was blowing teams out, dude can spin it. And I think that he's kind of the ideal backup quarterback. And this is a name that Oregon fans will know. He's kind of the modern day Nate Costa. If you had to start a game, and I think Nate Costa did start a game, I believe it was at UCLA when Darren Thomas got hurt. He can do enough. He's not going to wow you. You're not going to say, oh, he's a future starter. Another former Oregon backup quarterback forever, my ideal backup quarterback, was Brian Bennett. And Brian Bennett's someone who I could have very easily talked myself into being a starting quarterback. And he went on to start, I think, at an FCS school and won Conference Player of the Year in the Southland way back in the day. But, Thomas is not that sort of guy, but he's clearly capable of being the backup quarterback, coming in, playing in a pinch. Maybe he could start against a lower level opponent and do perfectly fine. If you put him out there for all 3 of Oregon's non-conference games this year, they would have been totally fine. They wouldn't have beaten Oklahoma State 69-3. They probably would have only beaten them 42-3. They might have run the ball a little bit more. But with Bryson Beaver coming in, Achilles Smith Jr. on the roster, Brock Thomas, Dylan Raiola, if Dante Moore comes back, actually that's 5. So no, I don't think Oregon, whether Dante Moore stays or goes, I don't think they're going to go and get a backup quarterback. I think they've got that role. And he's a local kid too, Sheldon High School in Eugene.
There you go. All right. Well, when we come back, I want to discuss the opportunity for Oregon to try to figure out the line play, because it sounds like a former defensive coordinator at Oregon may have something to do with some of the exit. How are they going to replace all these defensive linemen? They got over 20 guys in the portal. Spencer is our expert to figure out who is and who isn't coming and going, because there's a lot to get to. That is next here on this crossover. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. College football playoff is down to the final game. Indiana playing essentially a road game against Miami down in Miami Gardens, and FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in all the action every single game day of the playoffs, including the championship game. Right now, every college football playoff game day, FanDuel gives a profit boost waiting for you inside of the FanDuel app. Here's what you're going to love about it. You can still bet on the favorite, Indiana. I think the last I saw was 8.5. They were favored over the Canes. If you want to go with the upset or you just want the points, you can do that. Player props or anything else that you want to do. And when you get that profit boost, you can go ahead and get even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly. Great for playoff football. FanDuel is the best place to get on the action all playoff long. Visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff boost every single game day. And if you want to take your game to the next level, the Everydayer Club, Locked On Ducks, Locked On the Portal, any other place here on the Locked On Network, down in the description below, just click on the link. You can get your audio with no ads, $5 a month or $50 for the year. We've got a Discord. Check it out in the description down below. Spencer, defensive line, holy moly. Nobody had really recruited D-line quite like Oregon when Dan got there because they needed a lot of help when he took over.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But now, I'll let you define it because you can do it better, but a certain coach has left, or Cal. He happens to know a few of those D linemen well. Take it over, my friend. What has transpired?
7 defensive linemen from Oregon have hit the portal. 7. It's a mix of edge players and interior guys. And the curious thing about it is I don't think every guy transferred for the same reason. So the headline news for Oregon up front is actually that all 4 starting defensive linemen are returning in 2026. You've got Uyunglele and Tuioti coming back. Bear Alexander announced about a month ago he's returning, and Amari Washington is running it back, which was the most surprising to me. You know, Tuioti is, or this past season was, Oregon's statistically most productive defensive lineman. Mateo has better traits at a more valued position in the NFL at defensive end because he's 2 inches taller, which is crazy, but that, as you know, is how the NFL operates. They are a traits league. Amari Washington, though, like Kenyon Sadiq, who declared for the draft, he had a first-round grade by basically every mock draft that I saw, including but not limited to Mel Kiper. And so when guys get that, a la Josh Connerly a year ago, Derek Harmon as well, those guys could have come back, but when they left, you thought, well, yeah, it's understandable. Hard to pass up a first-round grade when you're in the trenches. And Amari Washington just did that. And I think that speaks to how much he likes Dan Lanning, how much he likes Tony Tuioti as defensive line coach, and how much he really likes Oregon. And if you've ever listened to any of the quotes that he has, most of which are loaded with expletives, he is probably someone that also, really wants to come back and help Oregon push for a national championship here. So I think that what the Ducks have coming back up front is overall really good. They lost hundreds of snaps from the edge room and from the interior of the defensive line, because I think getting both of your starting edge players back costs you a Blake Purchase and an Ashton Porter, because those guys are good enough to start, but not behind those guys who we know are better and are the starting caliber players. And then you look at the interior, and again, Amari and Bear are NFL caliber guys. They will be. They'll be taken in the first 2 or 3 days probably of the NFL draft. I don't think either one of those guys, Amari definitely is not fallen past the third round of the NFL draft. So then guys like Tioni Gray, who visited Notre Dame, or Terrence Green, or Zadavian Sims, these guys, Jericho Johnson, saw the field in varying capacities this year, but I described them at least as moderate impact players, but they weren't going to be starters. And I think some of them are just going to go with Tosh to Cal, because that's the guy who originally recruited them. Guys like Ashton Porter or Tioni Gray that have been with the Ducks. Blake Purchase was a part of that 2023 haul as well. Purchase could end up, he's from the state of Colorado. The Buffs could certainly use defensive linemen for sure. But yes. I think there are going to be some guys that are going to go with Tosh because he might be promising them a starting spot down there, but they can't all wind up down there. I don't think that is really feasible, because if they're looking to start, well, they're not all going to start at Cal. If you've got 5 interior guys, there are only 2 starting jobs. maybe if you count a heavy rotation guy, 3. So, some guys are obviously going to end up elsewhere. But I just think that it's the fallout, not from losing to Indiana as much as it is losing Tosh Lupoi, who has been a great recruiter for a very long time in this sport. One of the best. When he leaves a place and goes to another college, this is what he does. And Oregon's got some serious depth to backfill. They've got a couple other, bodies. Aiden Breland is one of them that's going into year 3.
That's a really good one, by the way.
He should be ready to go. He's actually underwhelmed so far relative to his recruiting expectation to this point in his career, but he could be a breakout candidate in 2026. Maybe Matthew Johnson as well, a guy I know that you liked when we talked about him on my show when he was coming out of high school. But I think he played 10 snaps this year, but he was a true freshman this season. But they've got some defensive linemen in the 2026 class. How ready are those guys? We might find out. So, there need to be probably 3 interior defensive line additions in the portal, at least, at the very least, because of what they've lost. And I don't know how you find those sorts of guys. It's one thing to go get a plug-and-play starter. It's another thing to go find transfer depth, which is what Oregon needs, because they don't need starters up front. They need depth.
I have one thing that I will offer you, and I guarantee you that Dan has tried to look into this with all their resources and just common sense. With the Diego Pavia rule that JUCO players get an extra year, all of a sudden more teams are interested in JUCOs. I would not be surprised if they've at least kicked the tire. And I have no intel, but that's logistically something that you'd be stupid not to at least entertain. California's got plenty of them. Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Mississippi. Just saying. That's a possibility. So FCS, heck, Ferris State really gifted Ole Miss very well. That's a Division II school. Don't take the level too seriously because kids develop at a different rate. Some guys don't hit it until they're 20 years old. Some guys hit it when they're 15. I mean, Jeremiah Smith wasn't a dude until the end of his sophomore year going to his junior year of high school. Believe it or not, he was the smallest guy in his group. True story. And then all of a sudden he sprouted up. Seriously. He was always
Did not know that.
He was the smallest guy in his group. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, look at Jeremiah.
He's not going to be the smallest guy in a group ever again. Never again.
No. But that's why you have to do your due diligence and why the back office staffs in Oregon's has been fantastic. Finding diamonds in the rough, kid from Idaho or anywhere else could end up at Oregon. And you don't necessarily think he's automatically going to kid, but like, oh, it's Oregon. They do their due diligence. I'll trust Lanning and his staff with that. When we come back, I want to discuss expectations, in particular because of the D-line for the Ducks in 26, because the only thing left really, Spencer, is to win a national championship. What would have to happen for the inside straight, because you need some pot luck, no matter who you are, to get there. What has to happen for the Ducks? That is next, right here on this crossover. Can Oregon win the 2026 national championship? Spencer, give me your pitch for why, and then go in reverse and say, here are my concerns.
Yes, they absolutely can. It's a year that I've kind of highlighted or circled before this season actually kicked off.
I talked about that last spring.
And by the way, even though Kenyon Sadiq's going to the NFL and you lose Emmanuel Prenon due to eligibility, there are certainly some things that have to happen. You have to start with bringing back Dante Moore. That has to be where you begin. Could Dylan Raiola get you there? I think we'd have to wait and see a bit. If Oregon gets Dante Moore back, that's the first thing that has to happen. From a roster standpoint, though, with, at the time of recording this show, the moves that we know about. And by the way, it's not just an NFL decision day for Dante Moore on Wednesday. It's an NFL decision for Dylan Thieneman. It's an NFL decision for Evan Stewart as well, who didn't play at all this year. And I think of those guys, Stewart is the lowest priority and also the biggest mystery. I think with the addition of Coy Parrish from Minnesota, Dylan Thieneman is almost certainly going to go to the NFL draft, and he is NFL ready. So I would be stunned. If Oregon's starting safeties next year are Coy Parrish and Dylan Thieneman, holy smokes, would be among the best safety tandems, maybe the best that Oregon has ever had. And I like the safety tandem they had a lot this season, and that was backed up by the fact that Oregon had one of the best passing defenses in the country. And yeah, the Indiana game second time. Look at the Indiana game the first go around. That performance looks even more impressive when you stack these guys up. So I think that for Oregon's roster, I know they've been tied to Jordan Seaton, the Colorado 5-star offensive tackle transfer who's played 2 years and certainly has NFL potential. I don't think tackle is as big of a need, frankly, as the depth on the defensive line. I think they need a guard more than they need an offensive tackle with the way the offensive line is currently constructed. But the offensive weaponry, Brian, as good as Oregon will have ever had. And I'm saying that after they've lost Kenyon Sadiq, who's one of the most unique football players of all time. So you take him out of the equation and you're left with Jamari Johnson as tight end 1, who might be the first tight end taken in the class of 2027 for the NFL draft. And then you look on the perimeter and you go, well, if Evan Stewart doesn't come back, what do they have? Oh, that's right, DeCorian Moore and Jeremiah McClellan, who burst onto the scene this year making spectacular catches. Yeah, he's really good. Oh, and they've got 2 5-star freshman receivers coming in. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's fine. Well, what about the running back room? Oh, yep, standout true freshman tandem with Jordan Davis and De'Aaron Hill. And frankly, I could see him trying to find a veteran running back in the portal. I wonder if Jay Harris at Kansas State would be open. That could be a solid fit. I kid, of course, because he just transferred from Oregon. For those that didn't know, to Kansas State, but he played in the Peach Bowl against Indiana and then left. But I don't think the roster has that many needs. I'm curious to see what they do at nickel. Maybe they cross-train Naeem Offord and put him there, but Jaden Kennedy is a sneaky, huge loss off of this defense for folks that are not close to the program. For those that watched a lot of Oregon football this year, you know exactly how impactful of a loss losing Jaden Kennedy is. So there are some needs. I think that before they would need to go and add Jordan Seaton, if they could find, I don't know that there's one available, if they could find a standout middle linebacker, the 2 of the top guys have already found their transfer destination, so they might just be running it back with the same group minus Bryce Betcher, which might not be an entirely bad thing because they've got some young potential in there, and Dylan Williams and Braden Platt, Kamar Mathuti hit the portal, but they've also got Gavin Nix, who's a true freshman in the class of 2025 and saw the field a bit this year. But yeah, not a lot needs to happen. The offensive weaponry is there. I think the offensive line is going to be there. They need depth on the defensive line. Linebackers will be solid. Secondary is stupidly deep and talented. They just need to figure out who's going to play nickel. And I don't think there are that many needs. They need Dante Moore, maybe a guard, maybe a nickel, and defensive line depth. That's it. You accomplish at least 3 of those things, you've got a national championship caliber roster once again.
The Dante Moore thing is intriguing. I just assumed Raiola would not sit. But in today's college football...
Well, and the reports from national types like Matt Zenitz have indicated he's willing to do that, and I think it'd be very smart.
Oh, I'm not saying you're wrong. You're using logic, but you're not in the scenario.
Yeah.
How many young people use logic? We were once there too. How many parents look at their kid and use logic without bias? Keywords without bias.
Not many.
Yeah, it's really hard to do. I'm in the 7-on-7 space. I know what bias looks like. So it would be really smart if Dylan decided to go that route, and Dante did as well. I watched some of that Indiana game, and I'm like, Dante looks flustered.
Mm-hmm.
There's no,
and those were really the only games where he looked that way. Texas Tech kind of fits into that camp, but
it was 2nd and 10 every time they ran it. No quarterback's going to be in a good spot. So
Yeah,
I
I think there's something to that. There's also something to, he fumbled twice. The muffed exchange against Indiana, the muffed exchange against Texas Tech didn't cost him, but was still a mistake. He doesn't always read defenses as well as he needs to. He's improved tremendously from the time he was at UCLA. That doesn't mean he's improved enough to where he's ready to go and try to tackle the NFL. I mean, you can just, off the top of my head, I think the Dolphins interviewed Brian Flores. Can you imagine Brian Flores scheming a defense against Dante Moore? You think Bryant Haynes is good, which he is. Dude should win the Broyles Award. And if he doesn't, we're canceling the award. I'm going to stage a protest on that regard. Like, if
he's
that
good, man. He's really good.
Good is an understatement. I mean, holy smokes.
My question is, why is he not getting a head coaching job? But that's a whole.
That's going to be for 2027. There's no way Indiana keeps him patched this year. He was the best kept secret in the country. Indiana stepped up and paid him a bunch of money, and he's going to be a head coach come 2027 in college football. But I just think that what Dante Moore is missing is not something that can be easily worked on as you're adapting to the NFL game. So he'd be wise to come back. And then look at the situation you'd have at Oregon. You can make $4 to $5 million probably in NIL for one more year. You have a chance to go win a national championship. You have a chance to improve, and you're going to be incredibly well supported. Incredibly well supported. Receivers, tight ends, running backs, defense, head coach. It's all elite. It's all going to be elite.
There's two things I'll add to that. You're not playing for the Jets. And
yeah,
dude, they didn't have an interception this year in a 17-game schedule.
Dude, first NFL team like ever.
Yeah, it's
to have that happen. I mean,
so
yeah.
And I'm going to throw out something else. Our big fellow friend from Baltimore would not be surprised if he ended up in the starting lineup at guard his freshman year. So.
Ihanacho? Yeah.
He's played it. He's like in practices. And he's gotten a lot better as a pass pro guy at tackle. I watched him up close.
I wonder if they would slide Janoris Wilson to guard.
I mean, you have options, is what I'm saying, before they even get a port. They probably need another guy as a backup anyway, and everybody does. Offensive line's hard.
Yeah. I mean, their backup lineman right now, I go into every season, Brian, saying you need to have 7 offensive linemen minimum. 8 is a number where I'm more comfortable. Correct. It cannot be 5. You can't be 1 injury away from having a weakness. Frankly, you can't be 2 injuries away. It's O-line. It's so easy to get rolled up on. It's not just for jumbo packages, but we've seen this each of the last couple of years. Guys are going to miss games on the offensive line. It is inevitable. And I think you've got to have 8. And I think right now, Oregon's probably feeling good about 6 or 7, depending on how ready Ihanacho is. Trent Ferguson was a developmental project who has seen the field a little bit over, or saw the field a little bit over the course of the season. He's an interior guy, was not a super highly rated recruit, and the snaps I've seen doesn't blow me away. Janoris Wilson could be ready to start. I think in 2026 will be his 3rd or 4th. In college football. So he should be ready to go. Fox Crater looks like a starting tackle. He should be ready to go. I think they need to try and figure out what the guard situation is going to be. I think Janoris Wilson could play guard, but we'll see.
Fair enough. Spencer, tell everybody where they can find your work.
On YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, however you consume this show right now, Locked On Ducks, Locked On College Football. I am everywhere because you just can't have too much of me. Can you, Brian?
I'm not going to comment on that.
I figured you wouldn't.
That's Vegas. Make sure you check out both our podcasts, like and subscribe. This has been a crossover, Locked On Ducks in the Port.